Welcome back to the N-Cut movie review. Today we have Vince McMahon, the documentary.
What you gonna do, brother, when the Hulkster runs wild on you?
Preface straight off the bat, one of us in this review is a huge avid wrestling fan, and one of us barely watched wrestling at all, and really only found out about WWE through the video games. I never really watched it when I was younger, but Josh watched WWE like religiously. It's like his actual religion. So there's going to be someone in this review who's going to know everything about WWE, and there's going to be someone in this review who's just like, yeah, they're like jack dudes who look freaking cool and have great intros and used to just wrestle with hot chicks.
You're goddamn right.
As Josh mentioned in the title, this is the Vince McMahon documentary, and the first thing this documentary does is prefaces that it was filmed before the allegations came out about Vince that he had been sexual assault accusations put out against him. Now, I think it's Netflix's way of trying to save face a little bit, but also put the documentary out without it make it look like they're making a cash grab off accusations that are absolutely horrible. Now, the documentary is 6 episodes, an hour for each episode, and it's filmed in a way where they're interviewing Vince, but not just Vince. They're interviewing Hulk Hogan, they're interviewing The Undertaker, they're interviewing Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, all these different people that Vince McMahon has interacted with throughout his life. And also, one of the main people in the documentary that you'll see from the first 2 to 3 episodes is the Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. He was responsible in a way for really putting the WWF, which it was back then, not the WWE, on the market when Vince took over the company from his old man. And that really shows in this documentary where Vince and Hulk have a really good relationship, have a lot of respect for each other. And the documentary ranges from Vince's childhood all the way up to present day WWE, where when he bought the wrestling promotion that his father owned off his father and then took it worldwide. I mean, look what the guy did. Sometimes it was good and other times it was really bad. But what I took away from this documentary after watching it is that Vince McMahon is a goddamn businessman, and he deserves respect for how well he was able to grow WWE, WWF, wrestling from nothing to worldwide entertainment. And 30 years later, it's still as big as it was back when he took over.
So for most of this documentary, it's prefacing everything that's happened in Vince's life and what it took for him to get to the position he was in, to make the billion-dollar company, to, take it mainstream. And if you're an avid fan like I am, you would know legitimately everything in this documentary. The only things that I found interesting throughout this is the dark side to WWE, because that's always been covered up, and also the takes from Vince McMahon, because we've never heard him, from his mouth, say his opinion on certain issues, like the Chris Benoit issue, like the Owen Hart issue. He's come out with media-trained answers. I wanted to hear what he thought from Vince's perspective, but he is so good as well as at manipulating context of the questions. He plays himself as the babyface and they're the heel, and he's done that his whole career. He always tries to disconnect and disassociate himself with Vince McMahon. There's a Vince McMahon on screen and there's a Vince McMahon at home. And that's the one thing that I thought was just complete and utter bullshit throughout this whole documentary. Him trying to put to the audience that he's a different dude. And this isn't just me saying that that's bullshit. A lot of other wrestlers and a lot of other people who were interviewed in the documentary said the exact same thing. But one thing I just want to jump into here is the Owen Hart situation. Just to preface for people who do not know, Owen Hart is the brother of Bret, and if you don't know the situation, he was basically on zip lines or wires, and one of them broke, and he fell to his death in the middle of the ring. Now, that whole scenario was Vince didn't give a flying shit about the morals of the situation. He thought only monetarily. He didn't want the fans to go home, and so he would have to refund a whole bunch of tickets. From that perspective, this was the initial setup for showing how diabolical Vince is and showing how vindictive he is and how much he just doesn't give a shit about his wrestlers and his talent. All he wants is the bottom line.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
It's just crazy to me that Vince can act that way, and that was a continuous theme throughout this whole documentary, that Vince McMahon is the ruthless businessman that everyone thinks he is, but he loves to mischaracterize everything and blur the lines like he's so good at, which is why you don't hear about any of this shit.
Now, while the documentary was obviously about Vince's life and how he grew the WWE and WWF, there were certain things in the past that the documentary really focused on. Arguably the most synonymous WWE/WWF moment, the Montreal Screjob. There was about 2.5 episodes, 3 episodes dedicated essentially to Bret Hart, pretty much just showing that Bret Hart in a way despises Vince McMahon, but also appreciates the businessman in Vince McMahon. Now, obviously, Bret Hart also has a beef with Vince because, like Josh mentioned, Owen Hart fell to his death, and Vince didn't even give a damn and was the most heartless guy ever, and just the show must go on, which was absolutely crazy. But I think the documentary did a really good job of pretty much showing that the lines between Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon the character, between business and pleasure is completely blurred when it comes to Vince McMahon. Now, I didn't know anything about Vince McMahon going into this other than he was the chairman of the WWE. Coming away from the documentary, you have to give respect to what he did as a businessman to grow the brand, but also just some of the shit that they used to get away with in the WWE. I mean, I know it was called the Attitude Era and then the Ruthless Aggression Era, but it really was Ruthless Aggression. It really was Attitude Era. These guys were like rock stars. Watching Triple H, watching Shawn Michaels, these guys talk about, yeah, we took the bumps. We actually really hit ourselves. We hurt ourselves. Like, you have to have a respect for these people. There's a moment in the documentary, which is also a very memorable moment for the WWE/WWF, where a reporter is asking the wrestlers, is this real? This is back in the 90s. And one of the wrestlers is like annoyed that he's asking, hey, is this real? Because obviously it is, to a degree. And he just slaps the hell out of that reporter. And then he says, is it real now? And then the reporter is like shocked because he whacked the hell out of him, whacks him again, pretty much knocks this reporter out. And it's like, yeah, it's real, mate. It's absolutely real. And just watching that, I was like, wow, these guys were pretty much could do what the hell they wanted. It also showed the difference in time, where we are right now to where we are back then. You know, the WWE could never have become what it was now. If it became a thing right now and it tried to grow that big, there's no way. He has literally got the most keen brain for business.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have a keen brain for anything else.
That's it.
And there were scenes in this documentary of pure delusion from Vince, where he's sort of painting himself in this picture where he's like, you know, I'm not that bad of a guy, or I'm not Mr. McMahon, I'm Vince McMahon, you know, me putting on a caricature and really emphasizing it to 100. And then it cuts to an interview with Hulk Hogan, with The Rock, with John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all these guys, and they're like, no, that's exactly Vince. He's the same person as Mr. McMahon as when he's Vince McMahon. The line is pretty much, there is no line. They're the same person. And I just found that so funny that Vince's delusion in a way that he is like, oh, I've got the morals and I'm this and I'm that, I'm this and I'm that. But it's everyone else around him is, no, Vince, you are Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, he does that so well. That was his whole push and like claim to fame when he was trying to change the business to really be entertaining. And that line of, is it real or is it not? He had so many things over the years. And like, just for one, I remember growing up as a kid watching him go into his limousine and that limousine exploding and me thinking, oh my God, I've just watched a murder. I've watched Vince McMahon die on screen.
That was great editing too.
The perfect editing. That's the type of emotion that it just enacts from people, is when you can get to those blurred lines. And that's really where the magic is. And they say that all the time in this documentary, but I'm still confused. I don't know if it's a hit piece or like a memorialization of his career, because
I think definitely when they started filming this documentary, it wasn't going to be a hit piece. Then the allegations come out and Netflix thought, we can make money off this, we can make headlines, hit piece. The final episode starts, and the first 5 episodes were filmed in 2022, and then for some reason there's a 2-year gap. They asked Bruce Pritchard, have you watched the 5 episodes that we filmed already? Bruce says, yep, I watched it. And they ask him, what did you think? And he said, I thought it was a shit documentary. You guys made Vince out to be this horrible guy. I thought it was a hit piece. You guys don't really know the real Vince. And I love that he was ride or die like that for Vince.
And it seems like loyalty was a massive thing throughout this. Like, if you look at all the interviews, all the ex-WWE stars, apart from Bret Hart, all of them say that they see Vince like a father.
But he went back, Bret went back anyway, like multiple times, after his brother died, after Montreal Screjob. So, Sable. Accusations. Then she went back and worked for Vince, you know, so he's obviously got away with money or away with his charm, but a lot of the people who had grievances with him came back to the business, so... Yeah,
and then on the other side, though, you have the Darkside of WWE. You have things like Ashley, who was just degraded the entire time, exactly like Trish Stratus, but she was for it, a little different. But you have things like Ashley, who then ends up, you know, offing herself because of certain allegations that she put out. Well, it was never confirmed, but, you know, that's what was put out. Obviously, you're going to have the allegations that come out in a complete farce and bullshit, and then you're going to have the ones that, you know, maybe should have stuck, but they didn't because WWE was so good at sweeping it under the rug, and they've done that so often that, you know, you kind of don't know. And that's going back to what we initially said. He blurs the lines so well. It even starts to go and blur into his real life, and you can hide it from the media and hide it from the public. And they've done that. There was a journalist, I think it was from the Washington Post.
Phil Mushnick
from the Washington Post. He
hates Vince McMahon. There's one thing you can take away from this documentary. That man hates Vince McMahon.
He was trying to expose the living shit out of him, and listening to his side to me was interesting because I kind of know everything about the guy. I was like, well, what's the other side that we haven't heard? And
he's been a hater since like 1980.
Yeah, he's stuck by his guns.
40 years.
You talk about loyalty?
Yeah,
man's loyal to the cause.
40 years he's made a career out of hating on the WWE and Vince McMahon. I mean, respect on the continuity, respect on the longevity of just being a genuine hater.
So consistent.
Loving it right now because he's like, hey, I was actually right. Even though to this day, still Vince Vince, in the court of law, has not been found guilty of anything.
Yeah.
Yes, he paid hush money. Yes, he bribed a few people here and there. There's been accusations, but he genuinely has not been found guilty of anything.
Yeah, I guess so. But he even comes into the court with like a fucking neck brace on to
That
try
was
and...
genius.
You know
Wasn't
what I mean?
that just great that he
Bro's
did that?
playing the goddamn
Yeah.
baby face, man. Like, he was just so good at that. That's what we call him, a marketing genius, and that's what he does.
And that was also like another reference towards the loyalty, I guess, of the WWE and also some of the guys bygone, the loyalty to Vince. The Hulkster. The police literally said, hey, if you don't testify against Vince McMahon, we're going to put you in jail on drug dealing charges for steroids because steroids were rife in the WWE. Hulkster's like, yep, all right, I don't want to go to jail. He gets up on the stand. I don't know what you're talking about. Vince didn't do anything. And the police and also the DA were like, hey, you were meant to testify against him. And the Hulkster said, no, you just told me to testify. I never said I was going to testify against him. And then they both get off.
And like, when you have all these allegations come out that have been swept under the rug, like he second in charge Pat Patterson, who was done for SAing and molesting and all that sort of shit.
Yeah, Mel Phillips, also
All of them.
pedophile.
Come on out, you rapist! Obviously the president. No chance!
So they've all been charged, but swept under the rug because Vince is either all-powerful or he knows someone who knows how to hide some shit. But it did outline more of the dark side, which I was more interested in to listen to, i.e., Chris Benoit. That is the biggest conspiracy of WWE of what's really happened. Because if you listen to Paul Heyman talk about it, if you listen to Vince, which we've finally got a answer on it, all of them don't really believe in CT. Stone Cold Steve Austin said it himself. I don't really believe in it. These people don't believe that CT was the cause of his actions. Yet it's so evident that one of the ex-wrestlers who then turned scientist and turned doctor to then go find out what was wrong with him actually looked at the brain and said, he's got the worst CTE we have ever seen. Literally ever seen. And now he is doing things irrationally and something he wouldn't do, which is out of character. And they still don't take that. They said it would be in his nature.
Yeah, I did find it interesting. Obviously, a lot of people know Chris Benoit, whether you're a WWE fan or not. They showed a little bit of footage of him doing his moves in the ring. And his main move is jumping headfirst into his opponent. And the amount of times it looked like he whacked his head, it's no wonder he ended up with CTE. Sad case. But when you watch the footage of him, it's like, how did they let him use his head? It would be interesting to know if the documentary was going to be more than 6 episodes, because like we mentioned earlier in the review, the 6th episode of the documentary starts with a black screen and says, Vince had allegations dropped on him today, he didn't show up. And he doesn't show up for the last episode, hence why it must have been filmed 2 years later, and then they go and speak to these other people. So I wonder if they were going to do, 10, 20 episodes. I mean, it's Vince McMahon. I think he would have wanted to do 10 episodes of his life, 20 episodes of his life. But 6th episode, it opens up with allegations have been dropped against Vince. He didn't show up, and he's also cancelled the rest of his Netflix documentary. And we also found out afterwards that Vince tried to buy the documentary off Netflix so it couldn't be released. So, I don't know. Maybe he knew it was a hit piece. Maybe Bruce got on to him and said, hey, it's a hit piece, mate. Don't put this out. But it probably tells you that he felt it was a hit piece if he's trying to buy it off Netflix so they don't release it. So,
or was it a marketing scheme by him once again to push it out? That would breed intrigue for me to be like, Vince wants to buy it? We got to watch this documentary now, right? At the end of these reviews, we do a rating. The documentary is 100% watchable, though. Everyone who is a fan and who's not a fan, go see this. It's a spectacle to see. Really is a spectacle.
Yeah, as someone who's not really a fan of the WWE, never really was, I think this was a cool documentary. It was cool to get a look behind the curtain. Kind of cool to see them just talking as normal people and with their real names on the screen. I'd actually never seen Triple H's real name, like Hulk Hogan's real name, Undertaker's real name. So that was kind of cool. And Vince McMahon, what a character, what a person. Love him or hate him, you're going to remember him.
And question of the day, what the fuck is Hulk saying on the way to the ring? Does anyone know?
Yeah, what's the Hulkster? Who's he yelling at? And why is he crying when he got the belt?
If you guys enjoyed this review, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Anyway, guys, peace, we out.
Peace.
And cut.